Hey guys, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. And today I want to talk about two of the biggest games in 2019 to release on the Nintendo Switch that both came out in the past week. So I'm of course talking about Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 and Fire Emblem Three Houses. These have been two of the most anticipated games to release for the Nintendo Switch this year, and here we are in the middle of summer, in the middle of the year, and now they're both officially in our hands. And they're also both very, very new. In fact, Fire Emblem has only been out for literally a couple of days. So I think really my purpose in this video was kind of just to talk about my experience with these two games, games that, again, we've all been very pumped for. I have been super excited for Fire Emblem, and kind of give my overall thoughts on what I think of them with the little bit of time I had on them so far, and also discuss the fact that these two games released so close to each other, whereas the Switch for most of the year so far hasn't had a lot of big releases. Obviously, having Super Mario Maker 2 come out at the end of June was certainly a big release. Not a game I am playing or was ever very excited for, but obviously going to be one of the biggest games of the year, one of the best reviewed, definitely will be one of the best-selling Nintendo Switch games, maybe even one of the best-selling games for the whole industry. It's entirely possible. And a couple of other gems here and there, but really, for the most part, the Switch has been pretty slow. We do know the Switch is picking up big time in the back half of the year. There are so many games to play coming out in July, as well as over the course of the next few months throughout the end of the year. It's going to be totally insane. So looking first at Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, just because it's the game that's been out the longest, and I've definitely spent the most time with it. This game is really freaking fun, you guys. Obviously, we live in a world where Marvel characters and the MCU films are just like the biggest, hottest things on the planet. So it kind of feels like we're always existing within the zeitgeist of the Marvel universe. So it was always going to be a great time to release a game like this. And when this was shown at the Game Awards at the end of last year, part of the big reveal was the fact that it was exclusive for the Nintendo Switch, which was definitely a big surprise, but for Switch fans and Nintendo fans, very, very exciting. And I will tell you guys, I've played the majority of this game actually couch co-op with my girlfriend. It's something that we've been taking a lot of time to kind of play through together, which is fun. That's the way these games are meant to be played. Obviously, you can play Ultimate Alliance 3 online, and that's really great and cool. I have quite a few buddies and my younger brother and stuff who have it and are playing, and we've talked about meeting up online. But so far, I've just had a chance to do it with my girlfriend, playing in the same room. And it's so fun to do that, you guys. This game is dripping with Marvel comic booky, fan servicey goodness, and I just can't get enough of it. The roster of characters is huge, and of course, this is before any of the DLC characters start to drop. We've unlocked about probably a little bit more than half of them, but some of the biggest and most exciting ones we're still waiting to get. I'm a big X-Men fan, so I cannot wait to get Storm, my favorite comic book character of all time. And I know also Magneto is in this game, and any other X-Men that show up. I believe Psylocke is in this game. It's just doing so many cool things for Marvel, and I'm loving it. I have to admit that it's pretty smart that they're kind of doing a sidestepping story to what the MCU films have been about, because Thanos and his quest for the Infinity Stones is a big part of the story here. It's obviously not the same story of the Thanos in the MCU. It's borrowing from the comic and the film lore and creating its own kind of story with the Black Order, and I think it's cool. And you can tell they executed it well, because this could have been a situation where people might have just felt sick of the Thanos storyline and the Infinity Stones storyline and just been like, oh, what a cheap cop-out. You have no good ideas. You already did this in the movies, and now you make a game using the same kind of story. How weak. And that could have been people's reactions, but really the reactions have been positive. And for me, I don't feel the Thanos and Infinity Stones burnout, so seeing it being a part of this story only has me more excited. I don't see it as like a lazy cheat. I see it as just more excitement about what we've already been invested in for the past 10 years in the films. And so they really, I think, did a very smart thing there. I will say I don't think things are completely perfect. I've thought about how to phrase this kind of weird sort of critique on the game, and I don't really know if this is the best way to do it, but this is what I've come up with. When you're fighting in this game, when you're in a room and you're playing as like Wolverine, for example, and you've got like, 30 guys, 30 enemies running around, or maybe even the fights where you have a big boss like a Doc Ock or something and there's other smaller enemies around, and you have to you want to start mashing your light attack and kind of throwing in your strong and special attacks here and there, and you want to just kind of mow through a bunch of bad guys. It's weird how it doesn't really feel like you can do that a lot of times. Obviously, one of the big things that's difficult with this game and games like it is sometimes hard to keep track of what's going on. I'm sure most of us feel that. There's a lot of crap being thrown at us. There's 100 enemies. There's colors and explosions and punches and lights and just things going like crazy. And it can be hard to know which character you're controlling, which direction they're facing, which enemies they're about to attack. Are they close enough to even land attacks, or are you going to be swinging at the air? That's already a little bit of a barrier, and this game does suffer from that. But also, when you're trying to just fight and swing with that light attack through a bunch of guys in front of you, I sometimes have the feeling that I'm not necessarily, like, heavy enough. I kind of feel like the characters in this game don't have enough weight to them. And so when they're attacking and knocking enemies and the enemies are supposed to be reacting, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of power or gravity behind what you're doing. And the way they can stop your combos at the drop of a hat, it seems, whether you're getting ganged up on or you're fighting an enemy and they can just throw a random punch and stop you from attacking mid-attack, that stuff also makes you feel like you're just like paper thin, like you're light as a piece of paper almost. And your character is just falling down and getting knocked around, you know, and it just feels like you're the weight of a penny just bouncing around the room sometimes as you're trying to attack. And you want to feel like, hey, I'm Thor, I'm Falcon, I'm Luke Cage, I'm Wolverine, I'm Black Widow. I should be able to just mow through you guys. But you will get ganged up on to such a degree that it just feels like they're tossing you around like a wet rag. And it definitely doesn't break the game. And overall, the game, I think, still is balanced in a way that makes it feel fair enough and still fun enough to be able to overpower and win most of your battles. But there's just something about it. I think it really comes down to the weight. That's just the one thing my brain hasn't let go of. It doesn't feel like the weight is balanced enough for you as a superhero and the enemies as bad guys to really kind of make it all match up. Either way, it's a phenomenally fun game. It's just kind of big, dumb action, and you just have a bunch of great superheroes. You get to make your perfect team. Playing couch co-op, I can't recommend it enough. It is so fun, even though the camera gets kind of wonky. And yeah, it's just perfect for what it's trying to do. A great Nintendo Switch release in the middle of summer, just perfect. Now, looking at Fire Emblem, again, I've only had it for a couple of days. We've all only had it for a couple of days, actually. I've also been quite busy. We've had a lot going on. We've had some very sad information in our pet department. So our weekend has just been really, really kind of jam-packed with a lot of stuff. So I haven't put too much time into Fire Emblem, but I've put probably 2 or 3 hours. I've been through about 4 or 5 battles. I've spent a lot of time with the school that I chose and the cast of characters the game is throwing at you. Also running around the school in the off time between battles, which is a huge new mechanic. So I have a little bit of an early on impression of the game. And when it comes to Fire Emblem, it's interesting. Most of you guys know me. I'm not a big JRPG guy, and I'm not a big RPG guy. In general, that genre hasn't super appealed to me. There's been some I've enjoyed here and there throughout the years, absolutely, but overall, a lot of times it's a little bit too much for me. But Fire Emblem, the last couple of Fire Emblem releases, Awakening and Fates, the one version of Fates that I played, I really, really love these games. Like, I became a huge Fire Emblem fan because once I settled into the battle system, I was like, this is incredible. It is such a blast. I am a pleb. I don't play with permadeath on, so you can, tell me you think I'm a filthy casual if that's something that bothers you, whatever. But that's how I prefer to play. I don't like losing people because I don't like the sadness of it all. And so I'm not especially experienced in JRPGs, but I do love Fire Emblem, so I was dying for the new Switch Fire Emblem, and I loved what they were setting up with the story. And with this little bit of time I've spent on it, I can tell you that it is definitely incredible. There are some things that I'm still like, but that's more my personal preference than it is an issue with the game, and I'll get into that. But overall, I think the presentation is dynamite for this game. I love the look and the feel and everything that they're giving us. I love the story with all of the voice acting and so many different characters. I love the character models and the graphics and the visuals of it all. It's just so inviting. The way they just vibrantly and colorfully pop off the screen and seem like real anime characters in front of you. And again, all voice acted. It's just so cool, and I can't get enough of that stuff. And what's interesting is, this is part of the stuff that I struggle with RPGs and with this game. I don't really love how much JRPGs usually throw at you. A lot of story, a lot of melodrama, and a lot of microsystems and things to micromanage. That is something that I struggle with. I'll be real with you guys. I consider myself a smart person, but JRPGs make me feel like a big old dummy. I mean, I really am just like, I don't know how to manage 100 different things for my entire party of 12 people every 5 minutes, or between every battle, or every new town or area we get to. And it's just, I mean, I could go into 1,000 things. JRPGs with a lot of menus and a lot of microsystems become very overwhelming for me. And I know people who love the genre love that about it, and that is great. I get the appeal. But it's always been a barrier for me because I get overwhelmed and it gets too complicated and I'm like, I don't have time for this. Let me go maybe on to something else. So I've usually struggled with that. Fire Emblem Three Houses early on seems to be introducing a hell of a lot of microsystems, you guys. You know, from teaching classes to maintaining your weapons to building relationships to all of the side quests when you're running around. I mean, it's just... And that's just like barely even skimming the surface. Like there's so much stuff. You get professor levels, you get battalion levels, you get weapon levels, you get relationships between your people, you get their relationships between each other, you get the professor, the teaching levels, it's like seminars, and it's like, wow, there's just so much stuff in this game. And I knew to expect it to a degree because that is what Fire Emblem is like. But it feels like it's turned up to 11 here, and so that part has been very intimidating to me early on. But let's be real, what it comes down to with Fire Emblem, what you actually come to the series for, is the battles. And I know that I'm in a system, I'm in a point in the game early on where the battles are farther spread out, and I know that eventually as I get into the groove, the battles will come faster and more frequently. But again, I've played about 4 or 5 battles so far, and all I can say is it is chef's kiss perfect. Loving it. This is the stuff I wish they spent more time talking about in directs and at E3 and stuff. They never spent a lot of time talking about the new mechanics of battle in Three Houses. They kept showing all the anime cutscenes, which I know this might bother some of you guys, but I actually don't care about that stuff. I'm not as interested in the story and the anime cutscenes and the characters. Like, I know it's a huge part of the game, and I care about it enough for me to get through the game, but it's not the meat that I go to Fire Emblem for. I just want battles. I want to level up, I want to rank up, I want to play with the new systems, I want to defeat my enemies, I want to strategize against them. And this game is doing that absolutely wonderfully. There are so many new mechanics. I'm loving what I've kind of spent early on with the battalion system, where you can like get a group of people to send at your foes, which is something they teased in the first trailer, but again, didn't spend much time on. They did in the Treehouse at E3, to be fair, but as far as the trailers and the directs, they just missed all that stuff. And just as far as just being a Fire Emblem strategy, RPG, battle system, battle game, it's freaking awesome. And the more that I play that stuff and continue to be engrossed in the combat, the more I realize I do care about the characters in the world, and I liked having 3 different houses of the school to pick. I actually chose Claude and the Golden Deer, and I think it's because it seems like the one that the least amount of people were talking about online and were into. I also liked Claude as a character. He seemed to have like a little bit more of a personality than Edelgard and whatever the other guy is. I can't remember his name, the guy with the blue lions or whatever they were. I'm already forgetting his name, darn it. Either way, so I was like, I'm gonna go with Claude. I'm gonna go with this and just kind of see what it's like, and just be the one guy who's the Golden Deer. And you know, you probably get a similar experience regardless of the house you chose. So I'm not too worried about maybe I chose the wrong house. I think it's fine. I'm enjoying my group of people, and it's weird how I do feel like this group of characters at my disposal are like my own, because I chose this group as the house I wanted to be a part of. So I do feel personally attached to the ones that I'm starting to like within my group. It's a really smart mechanic, and it obviously means there's a lot of replayability because it makes you want to maybe experience the game with all of the different houses and get to know all of the characters. Although, to go back to one of my previous comments about this game, there's also another microsystem within the game about being able to recruit characters from other houses into yours. And I'm too early on in the game for anyone to be interested into joining my house, but I'm just like, oh my god, here's a whole nother thing I have to deal with, is trying to talk to students and gain enough stats in the right categories to make them want to join my house and pay attention to all that stuff. It's just like, I almost get a headache from you guys, really. I don't want to sound like an idiot person, because I do think I'm fairly intelligent, but boy, these kinds of things just make me feel so stupid. But it's okay, because I am enjoying the game so much, and I'm so thankful for a new Fire Emblem on the Switch. I will say, going back to big picture here and talking about both games, I haven't played much Fire Emblem handheld. The biggest problem I'm having is the text is way too small. I'm like, my vision is just not good enough to be comfortable reading it. Also, I just have had not much time. With Marvel Ultimate Alliance, that game shines portably. I love playing that game portably. It's obviously great and best on the TV, sure. Same with Fire Emblem. But I have to give a special shout out to Marvel Ultimate Alliance and say it is phenomenal playing it on the TV, or sorry, portably. It really just lends itself so well to that kind of small screen in your hand experience. Really, really loving it. So here we have these two games. You've gotten my, spent about 5, 7, 10 minutes talking about each one to you guys, and they've released very close to each other. If I could have one complaint about all this, it's that these games are too close to each other. I'm struggling with my game time to know how I want to spend it and what game I want to be the most invested in or try to complete first. Ultimate Alliance seems like the ideal game to complete first because it's going to be a shorter experience than Fire Emblem, but Ultimate Alliance is also an extremely long game, and it also is something I'm trying not to play too much without my girlfriend present. Luckily, I'm on vacation this week. I've taken PTO for the whole week because Fire Emblem was coming out, so I happen to have an extra amount of time this week to play it, but I found it interesting that Nintendo and these companies decided to release these two games exclusive to the Switch literally within the same 7 days of each other. They honestly kind of feel like a competition to each other, which is a shame because each game is so freaking good, for their own reasons. That they deserve a lot more time to shine. But overall, I think Fire Emblem is going to end up being the better game for me, but I think Marvel Ultimate Alliance is just more like popcorn-y, action-y fun. And so I just appreciate them both so much for those reasons. And so with that, I think I'll just kind of wrap this up. I just wanted to make this video talking about these two huge Switch games that just came out and the little bit of time that I spent on them so far and give you my early on impressions. What a time to be a gamer and what a time to be a Switch fan. This is it. These two games start this massive run of so many great games between now and the end of the year. It's insane. Our wallets are going to suffer, but our game consoles are going to be super happy. And so, yeah, what do you guys think about Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3? What do you think about Fire Emblem 3 Houses so far? I know a lot of people have already beaten Marvel, which is just crazy to me that people have that much time on their hands, but whatever you think, man. I mean, talk about these games, what you think, and what you think it means that they released so close to each other. And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Ro2R Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.